Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Rebekah the Ghost Guide Live. I am your host, and I am a proud psychic medium living in one of the most underrated haunted cities in the southern United States, Wilmington, North Carolina. And welcome everybody who didn't know that I was actually doing a podcast. I'm going to be putting this out to as many different platforms as I can. And also, hello to my Patreons. This is going to be your monthly outlook. For those who are listening or viewing and you are not already aware, my Patreons at the top of each month get an outlook. Now, if you're unpaid, you get a monthly outlook, just a general outlook for what you can expect as far as a big theme for the month. And then for $5 tiers and up, you get a week by week outlook. And I encourage everybody to also make their own polls, whether that's tarot, rocks like what I do, or something else that you adhere to or resonate with. While I typically do this podcast recording live on Friday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TikTok, this one is not live. And it's because I didn't know that I would be releasing it as both the outlook, the course, as well as the podcast, as well as this is going out on all of my short form content places and my long form content places, because there is a lot of stress right now. And I think it's entirely valid. And I wanted to give some space to look into the possibility of what's going to be happening in the month of November 2024. And yes, to my regularly subscribing Patreons, as I said, this is going to be the outlook and the course. I'm releasing it to everybody this time around because I want to get this out there to anybody that might need it. So please, if you're watching this, wherever you're watching it from, please share it. Please share it with somebody who you feel might need it. I'm not sure what the reading's going to be yet. I haven't yet done the polls, though I feel it's going to be important to a lot of people. And even if you don't feel like you can share it with somebody who might be open to this, if you can just click share and copy link, that helps me out so much more than you know, truly. So thank you for that support. If you cannot support me monetarily or by dropping a comment or a like or anything like that, go share this post and click copy link. Whether you actually share it or not is up to you, and I totally understand either way. For those who are regular listeners to the podcast, I did say this week I was going to be releasing what not to do on a paranormal investigation. Please know that is coming. It may come out 2 weeks from now, because on the day that this goes out, I will be going live again 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of having a spiritual community. And this is based on me leading a spiritual community for years now, and also having to do a major rebrand of that spiritual community at the beginning of 2024. And if you're like, whoa, spiritual community, what is that? Where do I find it? That's going to be on my Patreon. And if you're on my Patreon, I highly recommend check out the tiers for courses. That's $10 a month. You can get 25 courses all right now for $10 a month. These are courses on your psychic skill sets, how to grow them, different games, how I do readings, how other people do readings, talking with past loved ones. These are the kinds of courses that are out there for $10 for you, and you can access all of them right now. The next tier up that I'm going to recommend is $25 a month. That is my community tier. We have regular video meetups in live time. Twice a month is going to be Spiritual Study Hall, where you can learn and grow with other people just like you all over the world. Another one is Intuitive Business Club. That is something that I'm regularly a part of. It is led by one of our members, and we're learning so much about how to support each other's intuition in entrepreneurship. The moderators are wonderful people. They're regularly making a safe space for everybody. And we also have a page where people can make posts, ask questions, and share photos. The last major tier that I'm going to recommend is $40 a month. And with that, you get all the things I already mentioned. And you get to meet with me twice a month with a small group, in a small group setting, people who are learning and growing. And 1 hour, you get to ask me any questions that you want in regards to the content that I've put out that month, or anything that you might be learning in the courses. And the other one, I actually teach you how to do different live reads. So sometimes those are psychic reads on location. Sometimes that is connecting with ghosts. Sometimes that's connecting with guides. Sometimes that's connecting with nature spirits. That's 2 hours a month for $40. I know some people who charge $200 for an hour. So please check out those resources. I do have them available. And I also have, of course, if you're just like, whoa, money, I don't know what to do. I have on the free tier, just went out to everybody a few months ago, how to break limiting beliefs in regards to money. So please consider checking those things out. That is what goes to support me. But more importantly, that's what helps you support yourself on your own spiritual journey. I have created a platform that I wish I had years ago when I felt so alone. Every month, I'm regularly putting out content. I'm going to leave all of that below, regardless of which platform you're looking at. It is going to be all below, except for the short form content platforms. That's too much in a small comment. But for all of my long form content, whether that is the podcast or YouTube or my Patreon, all of the events that I'm hosting this month will be in the description below. Please check them out and be sure to save them so that you can show up for the things that are live. And now for the reading. I'll be honest. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know where this is going to go. I just knew that I felt compelled to put this out for everybody and to make it attainable for everybody. And I will say thank you to my Patreons. It is because of you that I started doing these outlooks. It is because of you that I am able to share this with everybody else. So thank you. And if you want to leave a comment to say thank you to somebody, please say thank you to my Patreons. Thank you to you. What I'm going to be doing is a form of lithomancy here. And if you want to learn more about that, there's a course on that. But essentially, how this is going to work is I'm going to do a poll for the overall outlook for the month of November. I'm going to be doing a poll for each individual quarter. Now, note I say quarter and not week, just because time is not always exact to the day for everybody. Hundreds of people are going to be seeing this outlook. I hope thousands of people are going to see this outlook. So we have to cater it according to larger trends. And as always, I do not work without consent. So if you are open to receiving the message of this reading, simply say to yourself, yes, I am open to receiving the message of this reading. All right, let's begin. What is the overall theme for the collective in November? That's a lot of energy. Okay. What can we learn in regards to the first quarter of November? The second quarter? The third quarter? The fourth quarter? Anything else I need to know right now? Okay. Interesting pieces. Some of which I don't think I've pulled very often before. One of which I'm certain I haven't pulled before. So we'll get into that. First of which, the overall theme of November is going to be an appetite. I'm showing that on the screen right now. What does this say? I'll be real. That really did hit me in the gut. Typically, appetite can help to act as a way to make someone less hungry for something that doesn't serve them best. Though, while that deals with the guts, so to speak, this just hit me in the guts in a gross feeling. It's not a blockage. It's not a not able to function anymore, but I do feel like my stomach is in knots right now. So let me figure out what that means for the message today. I get the indication of have some, and this is a metaphor here, have the stomach medication nearby. Okay. I get like Lactaid comes into my mind. Maybe some people are going to need some Pepto-Bismol. That's the metaphor here. What are we actually looking at? I think the reality that we're looking at is not everybody is going to be happy. Not everybody's going to be happy. Things are going to go in a way that people don't like. And that's not to say that everything's going to be flipped upside down and there's going to be revolution and all that stuff. No, I think there are going to be some things that go in the direction that people are looking for them to go into. And then there are going to be other things that they don't. There are going to be some wins and there are going to be some loses. And it's going to be important to check yourself to say, all right, this is where we are now. This is where we need to go. There are going to be some people who are not thinking before they act. There are going to be some people who go online and spew a bunch of crap because they're not checking their feelings. They're going to be people who start making threats. They're going to be people who start taking it out on other people that really did nothing to them. This is going to be a time where those who are not checking their mental health, it's going to become painfully obvious. Remember, you can't control anything or anyone else. You can always control yourself. And that is one thing, I think if you're going to give any advice to anybody at this point, that's going to be it. That right there. You can't control anybody or anything else. You can always control yourself. You are in charge of the actions that you take. You are in charge of the words that you say. Check yourself. Know that not everybody will want to listen. Some people will not care. Some people will be particularly childish about this time. They're going to be the ones running around, I won and you lost, blah, 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 blah. Okay, wow. How old are we now? Really? People are going to have a lot of hurt feelings during this time. They just are. What can we do? We can check ourselves. There's a time and place for the things that we need to do, for the actions we need to take. Check yourself. This is a time for journaling. This is a time for offering space to yourself first, and then providing space to others, so long as you have space to give. We have to check ourselves. We have to be sure that we are not in a detriment right now. It will do no good if we are exhausted and we stop thinking. A lot of people are going to have their stomachs in knots. I don't think anybody's going to be like totally happy with any of the results. Some people are going to take it better than others. So I ask you now, before things happen, how are you going to take it? Are you going to have a temper tantrum? Or are you going to check yourself and actually do something about it for the long term? That's going to look different for other people. Your stomach will be in knots. Though remember, we have things to help with that. Even if it's ginger root. We have Dramamine. We have Pepto-Bismol. We have Lactaid. We have store brands of all of those things. For those who need more affordable things, yeah. Get the medications that you need and utilize them. What's the medication in this? Mental health, physical health. Go take a walk. Go sit in the sun. Go touch some grass. I know that's a stereotype. I get it. Though there's purpose behind it. Drink some water. Give yourself space. Understand your thoughts before you start spewing them out to other people. Check yourself. Okay, that's the overall outlook. Typically for anybody watching, I don't always get this serious in them, but this is a serious time. Let's get into the first quarter. First quarter is, it's a little thing I found while mudlarking. It used to hold a worm. So if that's any indication, it's a little worm that you would find in the ocean. It's going to be important to hold your shields up. Spiritually, physically. What that means to you. Some people's shields are coming together as their community or sticking with their family or going to their friends. Worms feel the word that comes to mind is gooky. They feel very like gross on the inside, and so some of them make these little casings for themselves so that they would be safe. It's okay to feel gross. This is the first quarter of November. It's right on top of the actual election, right? It's okay to do what you need to do to feel safe. Now remember, there is a difference between offense and defense. There's a big difference there. Holing up in your house is different from running out into the streets, right? offense versus defense. But remember, your casing in this is also going to be your mental health. Don't let everybody else's anxiety get to you. That's not your emotion. That's not your anxiety. That is not yours. Check yourself. I cannot say that enough. Understand your feelings in this. Look up some things now. How do I deal with anxiety? How do I deal with sadness? How do I deal with the complexity of sadness and elation? If you have a therapist, talk to them about this. But there are so many resources online that you can go to that are free. So many therapists that offer great advice on so many different platforms. Do what you need to do to make a safe shell for yourself so that you don't feel exposed all the time. The safest shell that you're ever going to have is going to be your mental health. Protect it. And if that means turning things off, that means turning things off. Sure, not everybody gets the luxury to turn things off, but if you do, allow yourself to do it. Don't punish yourself. You're not everybody else. We once used to be more solitary creatures. Like, we ran in small packs and in smaller communities. We didn't know everything that was going on all over the world all the time, even all over the country. It used to be you had to wait months for news. That was a bit better on our brains. Now we know everything immediately all the time, and it's stressful. Do what you need to do. We are humans. We are not evolutionarily designed to deal with all the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. Be kind to yourself. That's going to be the protection that works. Second quarter. This is in Ammonite and Fibili quartz. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And it is this side up. Oh, I really like the feeling of it in my hands. This is what I pull when I'm doing a reading and I'm talking to a elder spirit guide. As in, and it doesn't always mean that they're old. It just means they have experience, they have maturity. Pulling this for the second quarter feels really good. It feels stable. It feels like, okay. I think the first quarter we're going to get really worked up. The second quarter, though, is going to be the time where we start to settle. We start to settle into the, okay, so this is what we get. This is what we understand. Okay. I feel like for those of you who have been checking yourselves, the second quarter is going to feel like relief because you're starting to understand what you can and can't do about things that you can't control. I feel like for those of you who have a support network, this is where it pays off. You get to communicate with other people. I also feel like this is going to be a time where you go out again, like go to that restaurant you enjoy, go to that park, go see a show, something like that. This is getting back to normal. This is getting back to yourself. This is getting back to understanding change and deciding to move forward anyway. Things change. It's just the way it is. It's always been the way it is. Some people are really afraid of change because it has to do with control. But remember, you're always in control of yourself. That is the most powerful control that there is. Remember that. Find those who will remind you of that. This feels like more stability to me. And it does feel good. But it's when you've been changed and you move forward anyway. It's like if you read a book. I'm going to use Lord of the Rings as an example, right? So the hobbits, they go off. They have a whole experience, adventure. They come back changed, but they get to choose how they're going to live their life moving forward, even though they are forever changed. That's what we're looking at here. It's not a bad feeling so long as you take care of yourself. It's just different. Third quarter, rusty nail. And it is this side up. And what it reminds me of is if you were walking and there were a nail sticking up, stepping on it. This feels like a fumble. Around the third quarter of November, it feels like there is a fumble. It feels like something was swept under the rug, honestly. Like, this is rusty, but on the inside, you'll see there's still it's still silver, it's still metal, it's doing just fine. It almost feels like something was swept under the rug. And then people had to be like, oh, no, like, we're not using that, we're not using that. And yet the nail still works. And then we have to go back and revise it and say, oh, shoot, the nail still works. That means we can still use it. We should still use it. Here's the thing. It is rusty. You step on this thing, you're in trouble. You need to go check your tetanus shot, right? The fumble doesn't feel like everybody individually. It feels like something that happens on a broader scale. So remember, something broader than yourself doesn't have to feel personal. You can hold somebody up if they are fumbling around, right? You can help them. But remember, that's not exactly your problem unless you decide to take said person who stepped on a nail over to the hospital, right? It's important for you to choose what is your battle. Some of you will make an active decision to say, all right, they're going to have to figure that out. Some of you will choose to get involved. Just remember, you're in control of your own actions. You're always in control of your own actions. And if you don't have the bandwidth or the capability to hold somebody up to take them to the hospital, you can do what you can to get them an ambulance, right? If you don't have the physical capability to do something, you don't have it. Don't allow yourself to also get scraped up in the process if you literally can't do something for somebody else. This doesn't feel as self-preservation-y as it could. It is just, once again, going back to the theme of this month of checking yourself. Some of you will be able to do something. Some of you will not. And it's okay. If you feel in your heart of hearts that you are doing exactly what you need to be doing, who can argue with that? There might be hurt feelings. Other people may look at you and say, well, why aren't you doing this? Remember, you understand your life. And if you feel guilt about it later, you get to decide for yourself, is that your guilt or somebody else's? And if it's your guilt, well, do something about it. Make things right. Last quarter, petrified bogwood. And when I picked this up, it didn't literally cut into my thumb, but it's really sharp. And I don't remember it being this sharp before. So I am going to follow that and see what more it could mean. For some of you, this is going to be you coming to the decision of being straightforward of, yes, I believe this, or no, I do not. And that decision can feel sharp to people because other people who have been more wishy-washy, they haven't been checking themselves, they haven't been doing the mental health work. There's going to be a, well, yeah, but why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Why don't you believe this? Are you really going to believe that? Stand strong in what you believe in. We are going to be tested this month. We just are. The more you can do to understand what it is you believe in, the sharper you will become. And that doesn't mean you have to hurt other people. However, that does mean that you can simply say yes or no. You don't have to explain yourself. Sometimes saying less is far more. I know, my fellow neurodivergents, sometimes we feel the need to over-explain everything because we weren't understood. And so we try to make sure that other people understand us, or we didn't understand other people. So we always wanted that further explanation. No. People need to figure out for themselves what they believe. Period. So this last quarter of November, it's okay to be sharp. It's also okay to not give people attention if they're draining you. If they haven't made up their minds because they're not putting the work into themselves that they need to do, you don't have to give them any extra energy. They had their time. And if it's later than what was your time, that's okay. Truly, If you are not sitting with your thoughts and understanding them this month, it's going to be bad. It's going to hurt. That might mean things that are bubbling up from months past. That might mean the results of the election. This needs to be a month of reflection. Because for way too many, it won't be. We have to counterbalance that. We have to be better. Other people will be in their feelings. Is that for us? Or can we understand our feelings and try to make our minds clear enough to move forward? We don't have to be anybody else's problem. There is a difference between lifting people up and letting people fall. Where are you going to be? You may not agree with what somebody else believes in for their lifestyle. But the question here is, are they hurting you by existing? Are their decisions going to hurt you? Are they going to hurt marginalized groups? There is a difference between saying, I don't agree with something, and then putting legislation on somebody else's rights. We have a chance to decide our future. You may not agree with the full system that we are in. I don't either. But you know what we have? The availability to vote. And for some of you out there, you may not feel safe voting. I understand this. Please grab as many people as you can. Vote together. Stand in line. If you have to wait for election day, and for whatever reason they didn't put enough machines out that are working for you, if you are in the line, they have to keep the polls open until you vote. That is the law. Bring things to do. Bring water, bring food if you have to. Get DoorDash. Make your voice heard. I believe that everybody has intuition. I believe that everybody can take a moment to decide for themselves. Am I voting for kindness, for decency, for marginalized groups, for people who look different from me? Am I voting for the collective, or am I voting because I'm afraid? I think something here that a lot of people don't realize is we hear some of the rhetoric of some of these people who actively want to hurt other people. And some people think, oh, it could never be me. Oh, that could never happen to me. That would never happen to me. I'm white, or I'm rich, or I'm going to be rich. That could never happen to me. Could you think about somebody else? And then for a moment, could you think, what if it could? Would your decision change if you thought about the reality that most of us are not the 1%? I'd be really impressed if even one 1%er were listening to me right now. I would be floored. I'd be floored if even those in the top 10% were listening to me right now. Truly. And then there's everybody else. We are the majority, not them. And if you think that something bad couldn't happen to you because of your race or your gender, if you're not in that top 1%, think again. The candidates have been pretty forward with what they believe in. Some of them go back and forth on that. But they've said it. What will you choose? Please vote. And please vote all the way down the ballot. Vote in your local elections. Please. Coming from a fellow American. Your choices matter. And if nobody told you that today, please know your choices matter. They affect more than just you. Please think about our communities. Think about the collective. Think about those you've never met, that they're still human. They still want the same basic needs. They want food on their tables at night. We're all working extraordinarily hard. I think most of us, if we really just talk to each other, we'd see eye to eye on a lot of things. We're being made to believe that that's not true. Look inside of yourself. Look beyond the fear. As I said, this is the podcast release. I will have another podcast release for the Friday of or following the elections. And this will also be the Patreon course that I would typically put out, because I want to encourage everybody to take some time to do what you need to do to reflect. I'm going to be doing the same, honestly, a lot of next week, because I can afford to be off the internet. Even though it hurts my stats, I'm going to be off the internet because I don't need to be there. There's nothing more I need to say. Thank you for listening. Thanks to those who are sharing. If you feel drawn to check out my Patreon, I hope that you will. If there's anything that I'm going to be checking, it's going to be my community group, because I care about y'all. I feel like we have a really good support network there. And I want to ensure that we get to uphold that, and we get to continue to make a safe space for each other, even if it's just to remind each other that we're all in the same place. We're all in the same boat. We're all just trying to care about other people while still caring about ourselves. Beyond that, I hope that everybody here takes the time and space that they need. Decide now what self-care looks like for you. It's worth it. Start applying that. If you can take time for yourself, please do. And remember, everybody's going to have to go to work the next day if you didn't take off. So it's always okay to tell other people, hey, I don't really want to talk about that. And it doesn't have to be because your candidate won or lost. You can just say, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. You're entitled to your feelings, but I don't really have space. So thank you for respecting me. You can do that with family too. I know some of you are living in households where there is some real hothead energy there. And it's always okay to just say, hey, I respect your feelings, but I don't have the space or the capacity to hold them right now. Thank you. Thank you for respecting my boundaries, respecting me. We can talk about this later. Give me space, and then we can talk about this later. You're not a punching bag for anybody else. Please remember that. You can't control other people. You can always control yourself. Thank you for listening. I wish you all well. As I always say, stay curious, and understanding fights fear. Take care.